kind of like a, I think people like Michael Jordan as a kind of a unique kind of character.
And I have
You just see how games and possessions get more intense, how they mean more.
I'm not putting him on.
I think the U.S. is going to obviously win this.
Welcome to the Nothing But Respect podcast. My name is Patrick Redford. I'm joined, as always, by Harry Krinsky. And to ensure that nothing we say is legally actionable, we have our friend Jack, otherwise known as Sportello, three-time returning champion guest. How are you? Thanks for coming.
I'm doing well. I know, this isn't my podcast, so it's a bit uncouth to propose a new segment, but I feel like as a recurring guest, I can do this. I want to do something today called Am I Trippin'? So basically, I know usually we talk about basketball or the culture surrounding basketball, the media, the internet, whatever, but something's been pissing me off recently, okay? So
speak on it.
My friends and I, there's basically, it's like kind of an extended friend group, polycule, one of those things. I'm urbane. We have been living in Atlanta for the last, I want to say 8 months, and just getting an outstanding deal, right? We met this
housing
landlord.
market is crazy down there. Yeah,
I know, it's crazy. But we met this like remarkably, this just progressive, forward-thinking abolitionist landlord who offered us a home for $100 a month. We each pay $100.
What a come up.
Well, yeah, so it's
What
a
a
share
deal.
house, right? And so it's the 6 of us. It came with a car, and it was just like there were like a few responsibilities. It was just like you can do whatever you want inside, but mow the lawn. And it's going great, and I finally feel like I'm paying little enough rent that I can get my blogging career off the ground, monetize things a little bit.
Man, that's great.
Last week, this fucking man arrives and says, "This is my daughter's home." And the police correctly advised him that there was nothing he could do because I had what's called squatter's rights. But he just barged his way in and more or less forcibly moved me from the home. So right now, shit's not going great right now. And I guess the question I have for the audience is, am I tripping? Am I in the right? Am I in the wrong? What do you guys think?
I think I like this explanation, but I think we need another 12 minutes of video content before we can fully judge, because I assume that that's about the length of time it would take you to explain this story, and I think we need a lot more context.
I know I'll probably get to it later, but the best part of the 12-minute video is like 7 minutes in, where he's like, well, we're not using the place because my daughter's studying abroad, but he can't think of like study abroad, and like calls to the person off screen, and they're like, oh, studying abroad. He's like, yeah, in Thailand. And it's just like Chris Haynes as Parker Posey in White Lotus was so good.
This is good stuff. I'm just imagining you. I guess, to be clear, Jack is referencing the 14-minute Chris Haynes "Am I Trippin" video about evicting squatters from his Atlanta. What did he say? It's like, I went there at 3 a.m. and threw them out of my crib. Was like something close.
Yeah.
But just imagining you get an eviction notice, but it's written in like the NBA scoopster like busted verb tense, where it's like source. Player close to the housing style domicile of my daughter studying abroad, in Thailand for some reason, forcibly removed by the cops, legal action non-confirmed, mowing lawn, ?
Mm-hmm. Throw it citing the officer's badge number in the tweet.
Yeah.
Officer Stevenson.
And then Shams like aggregates that and is just like ESPN sources, but then says the same thing, but with like using all 3 verb tenses in one sentence somehow.
Oh my God. Well, that was an excellent bit to start. I was going to go with a Drew Timmy, sitting next to Drew Timmy on a Hinge date bit, but I think that clears.
Well, you've been working on this Drew Timmy Aura farming Fort Greene farmers market forma pasta factory bit for a while, and I just want to know.
I'm excited for you to flesh this out today.
Yeah, I think we can explore the studio space with this one.
Yeah, we can talk about it. Yeah, I did see him. I was at Doris on a Hinge date, and my day went to go to the bathroom. I looked over and Drew Timmy was there, and I asked him, because his date also went to the bathroom. What he was doing there, and yeah, I mean they met on Raya, whatever, second date, going pretty well. So it is weird to see him out here. I'm excited for him though. He had a good Nets debut.
The Drew Timmy thing is so funny. I imagine, this is also probably later in the show notes, but Drew Timmy joining the Nets in Mickey Mouse March, and then his second game winning a really important game to lose against the Wizards on a goaltend. Like, it's fucking infuriating.
It's so sick. With Brett Usher in attendance, I believe.
Yeah. A real hog. And then also the other big Drew Timmy news is, I think yesterday, I'm trying to scroll and find the tweet, but Ball Don't Stop. I hope this isn't one of the tweets I've bullied him into deleting. But Ball Don't Stop decided to give Drew Timmy his flowers the other day, which like fits.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, he did delete it. Oh my God. All right.
Why are you? You got to ride for your guys. Why are you bullying Mr. Ball Don't Stop into that?
Well, I didn't feel like I was bullying him. I just felt like Ball Don't Stop choosing to praise Drew Timmy is antithetical to everything he stands for.
It sort of makes sense to me, though, because it's like the thing with Timmy is that he's like very famous and prominent, but like there's a disparity between how many people know who he is versus like how successful he's been in pro basketball. And I think that broadly coalesces with his like, they are keeping, you know, real hoopers out of this game. And because he's like famous and successful, it's like, okay, maybe he's not like a Marcus Thornton type player with like totally brain dead shot selection, but because his career has been repressed by analytics, like you could make, if you're stupid, the case his career has been repressed by analytics that like he's making that case.
Yeah. He would do the same thing for like Jahlil Okafor. I do love the idea of Drew Timmy as like a return guy during a very boring March Madness. Like,
it is the basic through line of the Ball Don't Stop logic is if at any point in your life you have averaged 22 points for a week, the rest of your life, the reason you aren't averaging 22 is because of a conspiracy, like an anti-bag conspiracy. And so like Timmy had like a, you know, probably a WCC like player of the month run where he had 22 and 7. And it's like ever since then, that is the rule and everything else is the exception.
yeah, I think that's about right.
Not to go too far down this rabbit hole, because there's a nice transition out of this, but friend of the program, Owen Phillips, had a good observation when he was looking at Ball Don't Stop praising Cooper Flagg for like, in that incredible game he had the other day, like the worst shot he took probably was like the one he clipped, of course, but like could Flagg be the person that unites like the bag faction and then like the analytics faction? Because he is good at everything and is this like hyper do everything all the time guy, but like can get a little unnecessarily saucy with it in the half court, you know?
Yeah, I like to think of him as like the male Page. Like he's gonna do that for the men's game. I don't know. It's possible.
I hope so. We could use some uniting in our country. Speaking of uniting, me and Owen Phillips united briefly to talk about last week. That was sort of a good transition. I kind of got lost there.
He's thinking about Drew Timmy still.
Yeah.
Shaking your fist,
fuming that he ordered. Yeah, like a off-menu Paloma at the indoors.
He was blocking your view at Fancy Free of the TVs.
Exactly. Yeah, of the back of Spike Lee's head. I wanted to shout out Owen Phillips because we had some kind of Berkeley Carroll Monday basketball run convergent evolution where he was writing an article about fourth quarter, about this like shot clock concept and squeezing the shot clock that we were talking about last week, and then we kind of were talking about on Twitter, but then he made an article taking another step deeper, looking into like what players are associated with late shot clock shots. So and he's just like does great data viz stuff, great basketball stuff all around. So shout out to a friend of the pod, Owen Phillips. So hopefully he'll come on soon.
The F5 is his Substack.
Yes.
I recommend people subscribe. It's really great. He does like interviews. It's like really good value for weekly basket blogging. So check it out.
Yes.
What's his game like also?
I actually don't know. If we played together, I didn't know it was. I didn't connect the Avi to the game. So jury's still out.
Interesting.
I gotta go. Maybe
for itself.
Yeah, it probably speaks for itself. Exactly. Probably only taking threes and layups, like it's perfectly. Yeah.
Like calculator ratting, like doing rip throughs at the pickup run.
He's trying to organize his team into like, all right, we're gonna run a 2-3 zone on this next possession, then bust out into man, and Sam Merkaloff is just dunking on his head.
Scouting up people's like micro skills, shin angle.
No, but we are. Look, it's March. It's Mickey Mouse March. The fucking players of the week, the month were Paolo Banchero and Jalen Green. Nothing's going on, so we are diving deep into our meta bag. Zach Lowe is back, which is very exciting. I want to go even nicher, unless we have anything to say about the kind of predictable Zach Lowe Ringer reunion, which is exciting. The thing I wanted to talk about was even more niche, which is the Ball New Orleans park takeover, Jack, that you were a part of. At least I'm hearing you were a part of. I will say, maybe this is just where my algorithm's at, and obviously I love the Ball Don't Stop guys. They're hilarious on Twitter, and their pod's excellent.
The Ball guys.
What did I just say? Ball Don't Stop.
You said Ball Don't
Oh my god, it's a fine line these days. It is horseshoe theory. Yeah.
you know Ball Don't Stop is the thing.
Yeah. Excuse me. But what was going on in New Orleans? I saw a few photos of a limo playing Bill Simmons podcast with flashing lights. Like it looked like if I executive produced Euphoria.
Yeah. You give Bill full reign over Euphoria. I was not part of the limo, but I would like to say
the limo?
Basically party bus, I guess.
Swag.
I've more or less audited the weekend, but yeah, the Ball guys did put together this whole weekend in New Orleans. They did a live podcast Sunday night where they did a slop trial of David Griffin, which was delightful. I think the funniest part of the live podcast was Sam, the great Sam Sheehan, who's a very nice guy in person as well, goes across the street to put on Joker makeup, only to walk in they did the whole where's Sam, blah blah blah. He comes in and does this, honestly, nice a segue from Zach Lowe, a Zach Lowe inspired Loker bit, the only joke of which was, my father was an English teacher. And then the rest of the podcast, he's just sitting there in full Joker makeup. And, it was done at this local comedy venue, Sports Drink. It's great. It's a cafe during the day. If you're in New Orleans, you should pull up. Andrew is a great guy. He may or may not be listening to this right now. But he had booked an open mic for 9 p.m. after, right? And it's an open mic on a Sunday night, so it's the real sickos. Mm-hmm. But every so often, someone would just walk in to get a drink while they wait and just look up at these three men who are just the most podcast-looking guys, I say that with love, sitting at a table. The screen behind them is projecting just the basketball reference page for David Griffin's transaction history, and Sam's in Joker makeup. It's just
it's why is this man screaming about Alonzo G so much? I'm just trying to get these jokes off.
It was fucking insane. But yeah, they did a great job, and I think what was really cool to see was, it was tied to a Sixers-Pelicans game as well, which was an affront to basketball and humanity, a true slop-off. But they had, it felt like a spring break retreat for podcast listeners, which is actually less perverted than it sounds, but a lot of people made the trip down.
That's getting you on a list, dude.
It was cool to see. All of them needed to establish an alibi. But it was sweet to see. It's nice to see people, find a community online and actually actualize it.
Hell yeah.
I love that. Our version would be attending the Berkeley Carroll pickup run.
Yeah, exactly. And running, AI analytics on it. All right. Well, moving on to more, what you just talked about, Jack, was the bleeding edge, the future of sports media. Let's talk about the past. Let's talk about the disgusting, decaying past, unless they want to hire us for lots of money, which I'm talking about ESPN. Patrick, you wrote a great piece kind of summarizing and kind of analyzing this Pat McAfee, Stephen A. Smith, LeBron beef nexus. What can you take our listeners through what that was and what it all means?
So this was a very strange story. I mean, we were talking about it before, but I logged on, I don't remember what day it was last week, maybe Wednesday morning or something, and there was a Dave McMenamin story on the front page of ESPN about a LeBron James appearance on ESPN on Pat McAfee's show, an appearance he mostly spent talking shit about two other ESPN personalities, Brian Windhorst and Stephen A. Smith. And that was all a tie-in to a game later that night between LeBron's team and the Pacers, which is like Pat McAfee's in Indiana, which was on ESPN that LeBron won with a game winner. And so I thought that was just like this perfect occasion to do a little forensic analysis of what the fuck is going on at ESPN and like how is it such a this is not like the fracturing is not entirely novel. Like I remember a few years ago, there was this, my editor brought this up. Like there was this big self-sustaining ESPN news cycle about something Ron Jaworski said about Tim Tebow on ESPN that then was just like reaggregated. And like, so that the network is like sort of recycling its own garbage is not entirely novel. But what is sort of new here is just how fragmented it is, that like you essentially have McAfee and Smith, and to a lesser degree Windhorst, as these like kind of independent operators who are sort of competing with each other more than helping each other along within the greater ESPN network. And that McAfee like understands, like he as a thinker is, I mean, maybe that word is sort of the wrong word to use for someone like him, but like he has like a pro wrestling sensibility. He understands that like conflict is the thing that will sell, and that LeBron and Stephen A is like, and LeBron also understands this. But if you had just been hit over the head with a shovel like 15 years ago and woke up to see everyone fighting with each other, you would be like, what the fuck is happening? And the thesis is basically this is like the necessary byproduct of ESPN trying to exist in the much more like individualized quote unquote creator economy where everyone is sort of their own small business owner and is operating against each other. What did you guys think of the Omni feud? Sorry, that was a very verbose explanation.
No, that's helpful. The only thing I want to add to is like, to me, this is thematically related to the end of Around the Horn as this thing where, because I think about this when in my podcast production work about like starting up shows and what would make sense, and the idea of a show, the draw being at the network level is just doesn't make sense. There is no sell there. Like there's no even growth opportunity like and you started to see this. I remember when I was early on, like living in Brooklyn and sort of producing some podcasts in the Brooklyn comedy world, there was a strange phenomenon where the comedians were also the curators and tastemakers, and like that created some strange social dynamics where like you were putting other people on your shows based on if you were friends with them, but also nominally because you're like producing a show, and all of that bleeds together. And why that happened was because the only thing that matters when fusing multiple people together in this sort of new environment is that they have chemistry. It does not matter that they are part of some larger brand. It does not matter that they work for the same company. All that matters is that the sort of sparks fly there. And it kind of made me feel like, I mean, I guess, again, in a certain way, this is old, but like ESPN is just DOA. Like what could they possibly do other than license McAfee for some ungodly amount of money?
I mean, it is interesting that we're having this discussion the same day that Lowe goes to the Ringer to just do his podcast as like presumably a Spotify exclusive forever, because his firing from ESPN, and this is like too tidy of a story. I actually don't think, I only think you can extend this thesis so far, but like there's kind of this thing that people say of like, oh, you know, they fired Zach Lowe specifically to take on Pat McAfee. And that framework I think is like sort of correct, but it's more that they are picking between these like boutique large personalities. And like you said, like the unifying brand at the center there is like why are we like, what's going on here? Like what is the thing that actually holds them together? And I think that cement is way looser now than it was before.
Yeah, I mean the whole saga, like the reading your piece, the thing that came to mind is, you know, that great Brian Cosmas, like he's a draft Twitter guy, and he has this great, probably the second best critique of the Lakers, which is just that Laker fans are like insulted at the idea that anyone else watches basketball and like cares about their team winning. And if it was up to Lakers fans, they would just watch a game of 16 people in Lakers jerseys dribbling and saying Lakers, and they would just be content with that. I think that is kind of like what we are seeing is the dribbling around saying Lakers-ification of ESPN right now, where ESPN as a product kind of is nothing, right? It's this clearinghouse for a group of gigantic personalities. They can't hold on to all of them. You lose one, and they more or less disappear from your frame of reference, right? Like I think ESPN understands that like beef sells, and people want to see feuds, but they're almost too savvy to run a feud with anyone outside of the company because that'll be sending eyeballs away. I mean, aside from like Stephen A. Smith crashing out at Jason Whitlock for like accusing him of making up high school basketball stats, there hasn't been an I don't know. Maybe I'm
No, I think you're right.
Things.
Whitlock is sort of a good example because he was at ESPN a long time ago, and they gave him a bunch of money to run Undefeated at the time. And that was like, there's a great Greg Howard story on Old Deadspin from like 10 years ago about how fucked that all was. But like, they almost have a market incentive to like not have anyone become quote unquote the next Stephen A. Like anyone who gets too famous and becomes too big of a star then becomes like kind of too expensive. And basically like the ESPN brand always has to be bigger than like what the star would be. But then like that becomes more and more impossible as the environment turns into more like what Harry was describing with the Brooklyn Comedians.
Well, and then there's this other weird thing where, because people will either informally or sometimes formally, like I will talk to people about what should I do with my podcast? Should I bring it to a network? Should I whatever? And I advise that you get really nitty gritty about this idea of like, what is the network going to give you? Is it that, and maybe it can be something as ephemeral and silly as like, you will be on a like South by Southwest billboard next to Chris Black. And like, there's some actual value to that or whatever. But I think there was a while where people were just going and signing network deals because like that's what you do. You join a network and that lends some prestige. But now now that people have kind of caught up, like there's not really any prestige associated with ESPN. They basically have live rights and cushy salary and good health insurance, like which by the way, sounds good to some people. But,
nothing to turn your nose at.
But they're not. You aren't getting any prestige. You aren't getting any bump, which puts ESPN in a hole. But also, as we'll get to with the Herring stuff, like I think it's kind of failing everybody because you don't want this atomized, or at least I don't want this atomized like Substackification where nobody is edited and nobody talks to each other. Nobody is like forced to be in a newsroom environment and exist within the confines, the creative and useful confines of a brand or of a brand's language or of a editorial sense or whatever. Like the idea that we just want total creative id is foolish as well.
Yeah, that editorial sense bit strikes me as really correct because if you like the nature of this feud of just all against all without any like actual like real sensibility at the heart of it sort of strikes me as like a journalistic failure among other things. Like there's always been this tension of ESPN having an ostensible like adversarial journalism arm covering the leagues it pays rights for. But then also like the idea that people on like Sports Center, like a Scott Van Pelt or whatever, like they are sort of like they're news anchors as much as they're comedians. And they do have to present like sports, etc. as it happens with like, not like in a neutral light because that's like not real, but like at least like sort of on its own terms. And like the fact that basically the first take desk is like taken over all of ESPN's sensibility, that is like upstream of, I think, this LeBron fiasco.
I do want to highlight for a moment because I independently, before reading your piece, I remember seeing this series of headlines and just like giggling to myself. And so I went back as we were talking to see what the Wayback Machine says the headlines were on ESPN on March 27th. And there is the LeBron opens up on relationship with idol Jordan.
That's the funniest thing too, because like I'm sure TikTok style people love like just the Stephen A yelling like pro wrestling fake bullshit, but then the like LeBron Jordan thing, like only the old heads care about that still.
Oh,
but sorry to cut you off.
No, it's for sickos and perverts at this point.
And it's also just, again, it is surely, because I have worked on like websites, being A/B tested. Like,
oh yeah,
it's like that. There's another one that's getting beamed to somebody else that's like, some other bullshit about defends Bronny Jr. or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. I love the idea of one of those accounts that like tracks when the New York Times changes their headlines to show that they're invariably pushing propaganda, but it's about like ESPN like pushing a pro Bron agenda. So the headline underneath the LeBron Jordan shit is presumably you kind of just lost. It's Hurley : regret remarks but not changing as coach. And then it's police : UGA's Tuggle driving 107 miles per hour upon arrest. And then there's some stupid shit about the NFL, and then books set historically low win total for White Sox. It's just such a slice of life on ESPN.
Oh man.
That's the books. This is sort of not really related, but the books, like anytime that gambling houses like lose money, ESPN has this guy David Purdom whose job is basically to like sucker you into losing more of your money with like, oh no, bettors really won on this Cleveland Browns upset this week, which is basically like all the gambling houses just doing. They're like, I'm just a little guy, you can come take my money. But the thing about him is he's been doing this fucking shit for like 15 years, since like way before sports gambling was legalized. So presumably he was just doing this for the love of the game, and now it's like he's just aged into, stuff is degraded enough to the point that his shit is like not useful, but makes sense.
He's the definition of a useful idiot. The poor guy just loved like counterfactuals, and now he's fucked.
I have a theory on LeBron, the Windhorse thing too, because Windhorse just caught such a stray. Where LeBron
such a stray.
It breaks
fucking
my heart.
Weird guy. Pretends he's my best friend. I think that is him seeing that Windhorst is like doing the like, I'm done with you, I found a new guy to play with, where he's like hitching his wagon to Wemby so hard. Like that image of Windhorst at 3 a.m. with Wemby at the draft lottery getting that exclusive interview was like, I really do respect this man for his grind of just like, he understands LeBron's on the way out. He's like got to hitch his wagon to someone new, and like he understands how to get a meal ticket. So respect to Wendy. He didn't deserve that.
You could think in this line of thinking, you could more or less think of Windhorst as the male executive from The Substance. He is in the process of abandoning LeBron as Demi Moore, and LeBron, who has been taking the substance for the last 15 years in the form of human growth hormones,
I was going to say,
has a major decision to make.
I haven't seen The Substance, but I love the tie-in.
Yeah, also like just like you said, human growth hormone. Yeah, the substance. Shout out LeBron, who's coming back from this groin injury. Unfortunately, his little annual March vacation had to be cut short because Lakers were so ass. But we got to talk about a different media guy, because Harry went deep on the Chris Haynes brief. You were doing crazy amounts of research.
I really was. And I was giggling to myself doing it. Like there is a lot of joy in this. And I do actually, to set this up, there is something, this is a good example of the people who need the institutions. I think like Haynes, if you believe in his talent, it is the good faith interpretation is that he is better in an environment where like he isn't needing to kind of be the creative director and the marketing consultant and the whatever. He can just do what he does, which is like stand near Dame Lillard or whatever.
Yeah. Hold Dame's weed.
Yeah.
No, Dame doesn't smoke.
Okay. The Haynes brief there was a Haynes brief that went viral of which Jack was making fun of earlier, which was a special edition of the Haynes brief. And this is going to go a lot like the Cameron investigation we did, where I really started to see some kind of seams of reality splitting. But this, I want to start at the end and then we'll work our way back. The Haynes brief that we saw this week that went viral, which is now pinned to the top of his Twitter, which is important, I think. It was an Am I Trippin' special edition of the Haynes brief, which was a 12-minute video of him talking about how being like, y'all hear about this? And it's like squatting. Like he had never heard of squatting. Go ahead, Patrick.
Well, I just want to note that he dropped this He dropped this 11 minutes before the what's his name, the Taylor Jenkins news broke. So if you press play the second he posted this video, you could not have even gotten through the whole thing before he had to like interrupt his own drop with the Taylor Jenkins news. And so if you go to his page, he posts the thing, and then there's the Grizzlies announcement, and then a quote from Zach Kleiman, and then a self-retweet of the "they break into your room, trash it, move in, steal your car, and yet" tweet for right after. He's like, okay, unfortunately, I do have to do my job, but just so you know, here's what really matters.
I'm telling you right now that on New Year's Eve this year, with about 12 and a half minutes to midnight, I'm going to play it so that when the ball drops, you hear Chris defeatedly just going, well, I guess that's my reminder to invest in alarm systems or something. Just the way it meanders out into absolutely nothing.
The story that Haynes tells, which I almost like, is that he was Airbnb-ing his apartment, or maybe does Airbnb his apartment.
Yes.
His daughter was going to move into the apartment, like kind of in a more full-time way, and simultaneously, his neighbor calls him and tells him that there is a cabal of people living in his house, to which he then flies to Atlanta to personally handle this as his first decision. Calls the police and sets up a rendezvous with the police, which is like sort of unbelievable that he's going to be like, "Hi, I'm Chris Haynes of the Haynes Brief, YouTube page, like meet me at the allegedly is my house, when I land," right? Like he's like whatever, like a detective, and evicts these. I guess does or doesn't attempts to evict these people.
Claims he does.
Yeah, claims he kind of successfully goes in and gives them for like hours. The funniest part about his evicting thing. Well, there are actually many funny parts.
There's so many things we have to sit with here, but
one of the funny parts was his little remark that he was like, I gave them 3 hours, I came back, and they were still dragging their feet. And like he's like, can you believe these people? They're nobody has a sense of urgency anymore when I'm trying to kick them out of their home.
I'm scrolling through his Haynes briefs. I think this is the only one he put on a tie to do as well.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot to say about the sort of aesthetic decisions that the Haynes brief has made over time, which I will get into. But any other remarks about did I say this at the top? The whole thing is called Am I Trippin'? And
Am I Trippin'?
ESPN style news ticker on the bottom. It just says, "Am I trippin'?"
The entire time. And at one point, I actually do. I can go deep on this.
No,
and if
please.
you'll indulge me, I will. But there is a point, again, about like 8 minutes in, where he just like totally like breaks kayfabe, and he's like, "No, seriously, you see the title, like, am I tripping? Like, have y'all heard of this before?"
This is an interactive medium. Please tell me.
So, I have a kind of crazy take here, but remember that video right after the election? Where it was like that female, I want to say she was like a congressperson or something. And it was viral. Everyone was like, this is how Dems need to talk. And she basically said, like, she found out there was some law where, like, teachers can't give students apples or whatever. And, like I don't know, there's some food safety law. And she, like, used common sense and slashed the red tape. And it was proven that it's just, like, not real at all.
Right.
It's the exact cadence with which Chris Haynes talks about this like Kafka-esque legal system where he like lands and he coordinates with the cops, and the detective looks at him and he says, "Sir, there's nothing I can do." And Chris has to just kind of like in his Clint Eastwood he takes the law into his own hands. But there's a few gems in the video. One of them, like I referenced earlier, is that he's renting this place out as an Airbnb because his one daughter, who goes to Clark Atlanta, is studying abroad in Thailand. Which, again, like the idea of Chris Haynes on 5 lorazepams because Dame reported, the Dame trade breaks by Shams instead of Chris Haynes. And
they figured out your Airbnb the secret operation is not working. You're going to jail.
Yeah. Parker Posey, like, maximum contracts.
Drew Timmy.
Drew Timmy. They signed Drew Timmy?
He's aura farming.
Zachary Risashe. But so
Harry Krinsky.
So it's the squatter's stay is interrupted because his other daughter's going down for homecoming, and then he gets this call. Like, it's like the same level of just like syncopated retelling of a story that you see in like The Social Network, where you're like, obviously he doesn't get arrested the night that they go public or whatever, but he's like, I'm dropping my daughter off at the airport, and I get a call from a stranger, and I pick it up, and I go, "This."
He's like, usually I don't pick up these calls,
Right, right.
but
That's your
something
fucking
told me to
job.
pick this one up.
It's like, yes, you do. Like, and so that part's great. But yeah, I also mentioned this earlier. My two final favorite things are, one, his like gotcha moment that doesn't really play in the Am I Trippin' video, where the people claim that it's their house. And for the record, I believe them. But they say that the car is their friend's car, and he's like, I told the detective, watch this. He goes, if this is your friend's car, how do I have the key? And he unlocks the car. And then the final thing is when he says that they have been doing things to make it look like people live there, which, for the record, people did live there. They lived there in the house that was vacant. But he gives them props for the two things he credits them for is mowing the lawn and putting up Halloween decorations. He's like, the inside was trash, but I do have to give them credit there. It's so fucking good.
It's a beautiful document.
So it also did it. The Haynes briefs were something I was kind of ignoring. Like, I was like, I'm not. I don't need to consume these. I don't know what's going on. But then this really pushed me over to be like, okay, what's going on with all these? Because the last one I remember, and it's funny because I think I texted you, Patrick, about this, about he had this Haynes brief with this like incredibly intricate intro video. This like kind of like 10-second intro video of like highly edited, clearly made on Adobe After Effects, like multiple shots of him and LeBron, multiple shots of him and Dwayne Wade, and then it's just him being like, Chris Haynes here, De'Aaron Fox out for the season, and it's fuck, like that's such a bummer, or like some injury news, and it was like, oh god, what a kind of tasteless thing, and I probably at some point via Twitter osmosis understood the joke of like Haynes brief. He's I guess making a joke about underwear. Like he there's all these sort of like joke things seemingly applied in post to his sense of humor that do not come through at all in production. Like he is not funny, but there's like this like playful idea that's being superimposed onto him. But I finally was like, okay, like when did these start? Like, have these been going on forever and I just started seeing them? Like, what like, who is Chris Haynes? Like, who the fuck is this guy? And so I'm like, didn't he work at Yahoo? And at one point he did work at Yahoo, but more recently he was working at Turner. So I'm going to give you a timeline of Chris Haynes from August of 2024, when the NBA, the broadcasting deal went away from Turner, just was not renewed, and so they parted ways with him. So that was August 2024. They parted ways with Chris Haynes. My guess is it was somewhat quiet. Like, we now know in hindsight that that's what happened, but it was like it wasn't like whatever. He's not a big name, so it wasn't super reported. He's doing his basic retweeting of like carrying water for people until January 3rd, where the first Haynes brief comes out. Conspicuously, in my mind, a New Year's resolution. So like I have created this idea that he had a New Year's resolution where he needed to start posting, his own thing. Okay, that's when the first Haynes brief comes out. It is and I should set the scene. All of these Haynes briefs, except the I Am Trippin' Haynes brief, is about a 90 to 45 to 90-second video where he essentially reads a tweet. Like,
Yes.
That is it. He is, and it's always like breaking news style stuff, but he is doing the like token or not token, the sort of like the Adrian Wojnarowski ESPN hit after he's already tweeted, where he like pops up on the 6 p.m. ESPN and reads his tweet 20 minutes after it comes out. He is like doing that instead of the tweet, which makes no sense. Like it's such a, yeah.
With a lot of the
Saying-
same like
you go,
syntactical and dictive brokenness of his actual written words, which I, as a big Haynes sentence fan, I really appreciate.
Well, to your point, he is incredibly voicey on Twitter. I'm now realizing, because that's how he talks. He talks in
Yes.
sort of like fractured sentences, as if he's like losing track of his thoughts, or like getting lost on the teleprompter. Like that just seems like how he talks.
I was actually going to say that before I settled on the viral congressperson, that "Am I Trippin" is like vaguely Biden-esque.
Yeah.
Just in that it's like has like like all the properties of like a dream from like the 40s, and you're like, but I think
He beat up some neighborhood toughs. Like that's very
exactly,
Biden.
yeah. The squatters were named like Skippy, Bozo, and like Tutu. But the Haynes briefs, again, like all, I feel like you can talk of all the Haynes briefs that aren't "Am I Trippin" as kind of like in a similar category, and then "Am I Trippin" its own thing. But like the original Haynes briefs have the same properties as like the art. You know when you find like a recipe online, and then it's like
yes.
pop-up
Yes.
ads, and then like an anecdote about like someone's divorce. And
My
then,
grandson loves mayonnaise.
yeah, and then it's like Greece is one of the most beautiful cultures, and like an ancient tradition. And then like you finally get
Facts.
down there, and it's just like, yeah, 2 tablespoons of olive oil. That was what the Haynes briefs were, where it's just this like barrage of images and whatever, breaking news, and then he speaks for 5 seconds, and then the outro is also
Yeah.
like, shoo, foo, foo.
And invariably, the way the algorithm works is that, again, like by design, by the Twitter sorting algorithm, you have read the tweet before you read. Like, you know the ending. You know what
Yeah,
he's going
exactly.
to say. And so, okay, so he releases one on January 3rd. Releases a second one on January 5th. Notably, he uses the same iMovie transition, but in reverse. So the first one is the picture falls out, and then he comes in. The next one, the picture goes in, and he comes out. So and that will kick off what a series of completely incoherent iMovie transitions that, if you go back and look, if you are interested, he is using almost like a Fibonacci, like 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4. Like it's like switching a little bit at random.
Wait, can I make one note? Something
Yeah.
I observed. We'd been tracking this internally at Defector as well, and in the first Haynes brief, there's a neon sign over his right shoulder that says "Man Cave" that is not there in any subsequent Haynes brief. It is there for one brief exactly.
I was going to
before
say,
he
we do
yanks
have to
it.
talk at some point about just the utterly depraved Goon Cave he's doing the Haynes
Yes.
briefs from. That's just the nightmare blunt rotation of Brunson, McCollum, and what's his face, Lillard.
Yes, no, exactly. And then 2 kind of like video game systems.
Yeah.
He switches Papa Shot for Mortal Kombat at some point in January
right.
too.
Yes. To January 15th, this is where his the first graphic is added. And the graphic, I look at it and I like, I'm squinting at it because I'm doing a real deep dive, and I'm like, oh, the wording is kind of fuzzy in the way that AI wording is. Run it through an AI image detector. It is AI. So he is using a AI created backstop image for the January 15th one. January
This is
7th.
the fake newspaper one with
Yes.
the briefcase on it. Yeah.
Yes. So this is for our listeners. It's a animation of a basketball going through a hoop with in the 2 corners, almost like a PowerPoint style design. 2 of the same image that is an AI generated old newspaper headline that says Haynes brief and then has a briefcase on it. On January 29th, that's where the intro takes a huge step up. And I do want to pull back and say, like, there's something I like am somewhat empathetic to this guy. Has this platform. He wants to keep going. He wants to build his shit on the fly after like getting either laid off or whatever in this thing, and is being told that the future is video, and seeing Stephen A. Smith clips go viral, and like wanting to build it on the fly. So like I see the vision on some level, or I see if you are interested in playing the kind of like riding the attention economy into oblivion, like these are the rules you have to play by. Like you have to make shitty ass slop content as fast as you possibly can to maintain relevancy or whatever. And on January 29th, this is where this intro comes in. It's extremely involved. You kind of just have to check it out. In this important January 29th one, it is a 52-second video that has a 10-second intro, a 10-second outro, and the rest of it is him saying Jalen Johnson is out for the season, which was like one of the more devastating injuries of the year. Just like so. And then he also includes the phrase, again, first time he's using it, the phrase where he closes his Jalen Johnson injury news looking directly into the camera and saying, "Okay, you've been briefed."
Also Biden-esque in its own way.
Yes.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, while he's doing this, a lot of these updates are like about the Jimmy Butler fiasco.
Yes.
And he's just relaying these like embarrassing but like totally meaningless back and forth anecdotes where it's like breathless reporting on like Jimmy Butler's Instagram story contains a still image of this character from Martin. For those who did not know, Martin was a 90s sitcom. He also has a report of Isaiah Stewart getting suspended for technical foul accumulate or flagrant foul accumulation, and he used the phrase after accessing his sixth flagrant foul, which I just find to be like really beautiful verb usage.
Well, I think it's spiritually correct because flagrant fouls just exist within Isaiah Stewart, and he does have to just like
That's true.
He's the one guy who isn't assessed or given flagrant fouls. The flagrant fouls kind of like are pulled from. It's kind of like how great sculptors see the sculpture within the slab of marble. You can see the flagrant foul within Stewie.
I'll speed through the rest of this. Crucially, he starts to be sponsored by a baby company, a baby stroller company, and then sponsored by a midsoles company, which just furthers the sort of absurdity of these briefs because the experience is a 10-second ad for a baby stroller, a 10-second intro, him reading a tweet, and then a 10-second outro. Like it's the craziest like content decision I have ever. Like I just cannot believe that.
It's kind of beautiful. Like we're just surrounded by so much slop and detritus, but like I've never seen it embraced so whimsically in this way.
Well, I do. I'm gonna let you get through the timeline, Harry, because I have like a high level take about exactly that.
Oh yeah, we should stop derailing. Keep going.
Just the last final hilarious one leading up to the Am I Trippin' video. Which I should say the Am I Trippin' video is a 12-minute excerpt from the Haynes Brief extended version YouTube video episode 1, which debuted this week, which includes an interview with Isaiah Collier. By the way,
great first player to interview.
Ball don't stop core. Like.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last thing I'll say is he says he says he has an exclusive one-on-one interview with LeBron James, and then plays a audiogram of a image of him interviewing LeBron James. First of all, sort of like ISIS beheading style reading, like hostage reading something about how LeBron is punctual, and then like being like, I don't know how anybody has lasted 20 years staying on perfectly punctual all this years. I talked to LeBron about this, and then talks to LeBron where LeBron literally uses the phrase, the early bird gets the worm. So that's the exclusive one-on-one interview. And then of course the I Am Tripping video. So, but yes, I think I made my only overarching point, which is like, it's putting these folks in a, we're making fun of him, but it puts him in a tricky spot. Like he is just is way ahead of his skis in terms of what he's trying to do. He's trying to build this plane as he flies it. He went from having a complete content infrastructure to having none, and like is unfortunately needing to kind of like publicly wade through that. So there's some sympathy there.
And this is like, he actually does have like really great sources. Like obviously like the joke is always that like whenever Lillard has something he needs pushed, he'll use Haynes. But like Haynes does get like a lot of good shit. Like I was just looking back through all of the times we've like mentioned him in our basketball Slack, and there's a lot of like trade deadline. He broke a lot of shit around the trade. He had like has good stuff, but the problem is while the information is valuable, it's like extremely ephemeral. And like Shams reporting that like the Pistons have signed a guy in a 10-day is like, that is new, to use Shams's words, unique news, but like it's only valuable for like 3 minutes until the team announces it. And so then the scoopster, like the person who does this kind of reportage, has to like find ways to essentially like do the thing when you're writing an essay and it's 500 words and you only have 200 words to say, where you just like start writing these crazy ornate sentences and buffing it out. And like that lead, I think that not explains, but that's like coherent with the aesthetic being so fluffy, if that makes sense.
Jack, before you jump in, because I want to hear your overarching take, that totally makes sense, and it does make me think about how he might just be chasing the wrong model, because he is going for a like maximalist eyeballs, like sell ad revenue based on impressions model. But what seems to make more sense, to get nitty gritty, is like if he paywalled that, like if he just put all this information behind a paywall and released it, so the people who need the sources get the sources. He's just bringing his ideas to the marketplace in a kind of way that is I just don't think serving him.
Dude, if I paid Chris Haynes and I got the "Am I Trippin" video. I do think I
you would pay him again, because you would have gotten like 5x your money's value no matter how much you paid for that subscription.
Yeah, I love the idea of Chris hearing our conversation about ESPN, kind of like the ESPN universe like doubling down upon itself and deciding what he needs to do is start a feud between like his daughter, the squatters, Atlanta Police Department, and LeBron James. It's like LeBron speaks out on squatter rights, but I do think like the silent thing in the Haynes timeline is in between Haynes getting laid off or whatever, leaving Turner, and then the New Year's resolution to start the Haynes brief, which again we're laughing at, but like good for you, you're putting yourself out there.
Right.
I genuinely like Haynes. Like I met him once, and he's like a really nice guy.
Oh, I only like him parasocially, but I believe that. But it's Woj or Woj, however you like to say it, leaving, right? And like, I do think his absence, calls into question the value of the Scoopster itself, right? Like, I think Scoops are just like inherently less interesting when it's a one-man game. I think that, at least personally, as someone who was like into following NBA news, the horse race was half of the fun, and without it has lost like a little bit of its, I don't know, something that made it special. And I think one of the only interesting things that hasn't actually made good on its promise is like this personality vacuum of like who comes next. Because obviously Shams doesn't have the, quite frankly, like the brain cells or the riz to be the guy who carries this all himself. Like someone presumably is going to emerge. And what I like about the Haynes briefs are that he kind of is trying and failing, but at least has the freedom to fail at like modeling a new path forward of like what the big NBA scoop guy looks like. Basically, I think that we're going to see this ecosystem continue to fragment into just like sloppier and sloppier territories, both like figuratively and literally. And I think that's kind of fun because you're going to get some real absurdist shit. Like I think the Haynes, there is a world in which the Haynes brief kind of spins out into this like unironic, unintentionally funny parallel to like literally the universe they built with like On Cinema at the Cinema, where like there are just like recurring characters that you interact with through the Haynes brief that like you are nominally tuning in to hear about contract negotiations for like, some fucking role player on the Jazz, but you're really here to be like, like Chris Haynes is mad at his bitch wife again or whatever, like that is a possible universe. And to your point about the ephemera of scoops, like maybe that is going to be more interesting for people, is like having this personality who is this vehicle for scoops, but you're more interested in the person who's like exposing themselves to the toxic slop fields all day, every day. I don't know.
It's going to be interesting to see when we get not only one, but two new national TV partners next year. Like, I think that is going to that's going to change a lot of like, just in the basketball media generally, just because Amazon has more money than God. NBC has done this before. And I feel like, and ESPN will be the one that is still here. And I think all of their incentives are like mostly in direct competition with each other, but like, they're going to be trying to prove different things. NBC, that like, this is the return of the classic round ball rock. NBC, whatever going on. Amazon will be like trying to push the form forward in a way. Like, I think they signed Blake Griffin and Dirk, right?
Did
Get that correct?
Yeah, they did. Amazon did.
Yeah. And I ideally, I would love to see Haynes go to NBC so I can see him on TV again. But like, this is just basically like a very strange gap year with like one national TV partner dying, and like with it, Haynes's TV appearances. And I hope that this is just kind of an extended audition to like eventually get the NBC slot or maybe the Amazon slot. Like, surely there's pretty serious competition going on behind the scenes for those.
Yeah. It's yeah, totally. Like maybe the other, just to bring it back to McAfee, because I think there's a part of this with McAfee and Stephen A. Smith, honestly, where you are seeing at the top, and I think a lot of these people, this is a little bit of just an educated guess, but I feel like I've seen this in working with people, is like a lot of these creators or whatever have a pretty small aperture of like what they're looking at content-wise. Like, they are looking at they're looking at like the three things that are most popular on ESPN, so that like kind of shrinks their aperture of like what is possible for them. And so when you look at, if you're Chris Haynes and you are like, I want to be peers with Stephen A. Smith, I want to be peers with Pat McAfee, like I could see how the only possible option is to like go Riz for Riz with them. What you're seeing, like Chris Haynes has never said anything about his personal life. And then all of a sudden he's doing an Am I Trippin' video. Like, that is a direct response to a Stephen A. Smith, ranking The Simpsons. That is. Yeah.
You would think it was like the way Am I Trippin' is delivered too is like, you would think it is a subscription model, right? Because there's all these apologies for the digression. It's like, usually I don't do this. Like, it's like the guy who, if you have a podcast or Substack and you're like, well, I'm going to be out weekly, but like, I don't really have anything to talk about this week, but like, I kicked some crazy ass people out of the crib. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I think what's fascinating to me is like, I think if you see which way the wind is blowing as someone who's kind of like a creator, or for lack of a better word, in this space, yeah, the lodestars are like Stephen A. and Pat McAfee or whatever, for better or worse, probably for worse. But watching those guys are so good at distilling their essences, and they've gotten to the point where, at least to me, they're not interesting whatsoever, because they are so good at doing the decidedly non-sport thing that people have seemed to like about them, to the point where they've become, like, I wrote about this a while ago in the Stephen A. context. It's just like, it's no longer interesting because the odd eccentricities are the feature, not the bug anymore. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of a privilege to watch someone with enough followers that, like, you're not an insane person for observing his stuff, but like, watch someone learn and fail in real time. Like, they're just utter chaos from one video to the next of like, we're gonna try this, like, fuck it, scratch that, we're gonna try this. Like, it's like, it has like this jazzy spirit. It's like really cool.
Yeah, Haynes strikes me as someone who is like, if not funny, then like lighthearted about this. Like, yes. Stephen A. and a lot of those guys just seem like these like dead-eyed operators who are there to like maximize profit and eyeballs. And like, maybe that's like what Haynes is doing to a certain degree too. But like, there is like this aura of whimsy that I can't help but like really feel charmed by.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight, like, yeah, I don't think it's good to like evict people, and I don't think it's good to operate an Airbnb, but like, he leaves open the possibility that he is tripping. You know what I mean?
Yes,
like, he's like humble. Like, he is like open to pushback. You know what I mean? Stephen A. wouldn't ask that. Stephen A. knows he's not tripping.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Or would presume not trippingness. Yeah.
Yeah. The Stephen A. segment would have been called like y'all tripping.
All right. Well, let's. We got a few other topics I wanted to hit. Do you? We got the Pistons fight. We got the Taylor Jenkins firing. We got chalk as a recession indicator, and we got Grimes tweeting about the NBA. Which of those are Jack? I'll give it to you. Dealer's choice. Which one of those is?
Real quick, I mean, we had been talking about this a little bit earlier. I do love chalk as a recession indicator. Mm-hmm. I laughed out loud when I saw that the last and only other all one seed Final Four was literally in 2008.
Yeah.
And there's also just something so ominous about like the cast of characters that constituted that Final Four, because we know almost to a guarantee that the guys who are in this Final Four are probably not going to have the staying power that those guys did.
God,
I think
not.
the Duke team will field 2 to 3 good to great NBA players, and I don't know the rest of them. I'm not a real draft sicko, but like Auburn, every player on Auburn by my count is like 35 years old.
Yeah, they're older than us.
Yeah. They're like, Auburn's the first, like, what if you made the entire plane out of unk? And then the rest, I mean, who fucking cares? But, like, you look, it's like Derrick Rose and Mario Chalmers and then randomly Tyler Hansbrough. And then I made this joke to you guys earlier, but I do actually think there's something reassuring right now where, like, as a reluctant nothing ever happens guy, I came to Nothing Ever Happens late. The second I announced my fealty to Team Nothing Ever Happens,
I remember this.
Every fucking thing on earth happened and has continued. Every single day something happens now. It's just like the stock market is down 40%, or like Trump is tariffing everywhere. Like, we're going to be annexed by China in like 3 years.
Yeah.
And so it's really beautiful to see, at least in the sporting context, finally nothing happens, right? It's just no upsets, no nothing. We're simming the chalk Final Four, and it's kind of, I don't know, I feel like I'm being like put out to pasture in a way that's pleasing.
That is nice. Yeah, it's a smooth brain Final
Exactly.
Four.
It's the don't worry about it kid in Final Four.
It also I am a little like just sort of annoyed broadly with the with this immediately happening, like the first year NIL discourse hits a fervor where it is just sort of like, okay, the NIL is like fucking making the player make it. It's like, see, we got to get rid of NIL. And I'm like, I'm sure some of that is true, but like any kind of like nuance, it like perfectly reverse engineered like a perfect like well actually, you know, debate, which is a bummer. One kind of NIL college basketball thing that I did find interesting that I was listening to, actually, like the good folks on the Dan Le Batard show, they were batting this around. But I actually do think it was interesting. There is, first of all, you guys know this, there's going to be a McKinsey clearinghouse for NIL deals coming. It's just like
Jesus
popped out of his thing. Like,
this is like a joke you would write in the script where I'd be like, okay, yeah, we can do this bit for like a couple minutes, but then we
can do the Drew Timmy Hinge bit. Yeah. But that and there's going to be like more involved rev sharing across NIL stuff and kind of like making it a slightly more legitimate, less Wild West or whatever.
We're about to see ACLs tear at an unprecedented rate.
But one of the interesting possible outcomes of this is basically the non-football powerhouse conferences will suddenly be via like basically loophole themselves into the basketball powerhouse conferences, because if the money is a rev share and your football program, like if everybody gets $20 million and you can allocate it X amount of different ways, the basketball teams that will be the best will be the ones that don't need to allocate 17 million of that 20 million to, you know, an offensive lineman. So I just think I don't even know if that's good or bad or whatever, like who's to say. But it would be funny if like Providence is a basketball powerhouse in like 6 years or something.
This makes me wonder, like, if this sort of private consortium has gotten together to sort of like standardize some degree of payments, like what does the NCAA even like exist for anymore, if not just purely like skimming off the top?
Yeah, they are just the Uber Eats fee. Like they're just like, I don't know. I think this is kind of dumb guy math, but like you already see an interesting thing with like the big story being the decline of the SEC in football this year, and then all of a sudden the SEC is like sick at basketball again. I don't know. I don't know too much about college sports, but I am just like broadly speaking a truther that NIL is totally fine, and that the problem this year is way more just the final gasps of COVID eligibility and like.
Yeah.
Jokes aside, everyone in Auburn being fucking 25.
Right.
And I think like when the dust settles and you have just college being largely the domain of 4 or 5 year players, you'll maybe see something cool where like smaller programs almost take on this like they recapture the essence of what made them exciting in the first place, where mid-majors are also recast almost as farm teams, where it's like, yeah, maybe your spunky freshman only stays at Providence their first and second years, but like they have the opportunity to put on a show before they go get farmed out to UNC or whatever.
Yeah, that's sort of interesting. Like Sedona Price, one of the best players on TCU, she was in college in like 2018. So she's been doing like various low grade alleged and I guess maybe some confirmed spousal and partner abuse for like as long as like 2 college terms for a normal person. That's fucking crazy. That is interesting. Like I think BYU is a really interesting test case here because DeBonsa is going there next year, like the number 1 guy. And yeah, the COVID. When does like the COVID eligibility sort of long tail stop? Is it next year?
After this,
My understanding is this is the final year that you're going to see the like super seniors.
the fucking
I missed my chance.
Yeah, finally gonna.
Yeah, lace them up.
Do you guys have any thoughts about the Taylor Jenkins firing? I haven't watched enough Grizzlies to kind of like have an educated opinion on the basketball fit. It shocked me in the kind of obvious sense of like, why would you fire a coach 3 weeks before the end of the season?
They must not have liked him.
Yeah, I mean, right. I agree. That's the only thing I can think is that like he like quote unquote lost the locker room in a really profound way.
A lot of the Grizzlies fans I saw replying to like tweets of this announcement in various other comment sections were like pretty much uniformly just like, oh my God, finally, like get his ass out of here, which did surprise me. Maybe I think if we ever get Owen on, which I guess this is your invite now.
Yeah.
He's the right guy to ask about this because in all of his charts that he posts, the Grizzlies are always like off on their own somewhere. So he could explain it to us, I think, in normal terms.
I will just say that this actually reminds me of the final hilarious Haynes brief thing, which is that like he so misunderstands the media ecosystem that he posts his expose on what is definitionally the news dump day, right? Like it's like it happens right then and there. But as a defense attorney, I have to say that there are a lot of unsung heroes in this world, and one of them is the guy with no record who takes the fall for the gun. And I just can't wait until 6 months' time from now, maybe when Taylor's starting to get floated for new job opportunities, we find out that Taylor Jenkins had been spotted driving away from a strip club with 4 guns in his car. I think we're going to find out real quickly why Taylor got fired. And that. He's sort of like the Batman of Memphis. He's actually far more selfless than we'd been led to believe.
I like that. That's intriguing.
That's a good theory.
Yeah.
I do like that this is... I wonder if this is also, a sort of market inefficiency advanced analytics thing of like, okay, we all know about the new coach bounce, like the dead.
I had this thought too.
It's like, what if you just time that for the playoffs, right?
We're dosing out the new coach. Yeah, we're gonna fire an assistant coach at the exact right moment, dose it out.
But it's like the Grizzlies are weird because they're running this like totally retooled Euro style offense from Thomas Usalo, this Finnish guy.
Yep.
And presumably he's going to be the one that's taking over. And so it's like, is Haynes taking the fall for a guy who's now being promoted? Like, or not Haynes, Jesus Christ, Jenkins, you know what I mean? Yeah. But like,
no, it's confusing. That it doesn't make any. The only other thought I had, now I'm like thinking this out, is like, because normally there, if it is a lost the locker room situation, there's like enough smoke to where of like reported pieces or whatever. But I wonder if it is like because doesn't make sense to me that there would be smoke from Jaren Jackson, who's having a career year. I would be surprised. But Ja is having a down year by his standard. And I wonder if Ja has just like spent all of his equity. Like he really doesn't have much left in terms of like whining, you know, like I wonder if like he wanted him out for a while, went to Nike, and Nike was like, no, you are not tweeting. Like, we are not leaking the thing to Haynes to bring it full circle. Like, you are fucking playing this one out.
Yeah, you're in timeout, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, I do think the one thing I've been seeing a lot of in the wake has been just like various videos of Desmond Bain crashing out at Santi Aldama, which is not good for the steroid allegations. Like, Desmond Bain's the last guy who needs to be seen yelling at someone because those arms are already like, like, come on, buddy. Like, he looks like the guys who are trying to sell me liver on Instagram. Yeah. Like, he's just like huge.
What a cool guy. Maybe Asalo will play Yuki more. That's all I hope.
Yeah, that's a good way to, you know, get the team to like you, is to play a G League guy over Ja.
Yeah.
I have one final. I have a crazy Playboy Cardi theory that I was thinking about on my run that I want to run by you, Jack.
I love this. I had a similarly crazy music related theory that I'll do after this.
Beautiful.
Good shit.
Okay. I was thinking about I on shuffle the future the original Future song with the Kendrick verse where he's kicked off the beef came on. I was like, this shit sucks. And I was like, God, most of the kind of like OG millennial rappers who appeared on this album kind of sucked. Like, most of the verses were mid or just like didn't work. And I was like, is there an uncanny valley of like vibe likeness in rap features where if you are really far away, like Kendrick Lamar, the feature works because there's sort of some innate thing. And if you are really close, like a Gunna and Young Thug feature, it works. But if you are in this like strange uncanny valley where you are like Travis Scott or Thug and Cardi or whatever, that sort of like sliver of similar but not too similar vibe, it's something about that like disrupts the chi.
Okay.
I haven't done enough thinking about like, does that track out of anything outside of the Playboy Cardi album? But I figured it was good for the last 5 minutes of the pod theory.
I like that. I mean, I think like the real culprit is probably just like everyone and all the features are people who are washed. You know, like music has very like Le GM vibes of just like, who the fuck are you putting around you, dude? Like, you had full reign. But this is kind of, I don't know if you guys listen, but the guys over at Popcast, the New York Times podcast, that's Joe Coscarelli and John Caramanica. Joe was talking a little bit about, I think it was Joe, about features as kind of like, this is a little to your point of either close or far. Like, especially with someone as influential as Cardi, you can see either people trying to like prove them. I mean, typically speaking, you see either people trying to prove themselves, like show the most distilled version of their style because they're like, this is my limelight moment, or you see people trying to like take the mantle and meet them where they're at. And I think both of those done well kind of approximate what you're describing, where it's like you're either really close or really far. And the example they use, which I think is spot on, is like, go on and listen to, I remember the first time I heard Whole Lotta Red, like one of my major takeaways was like, I cannot believe Future is doing the baby voice and talking about like being addicted to Molly or codeine. It's We on X, We on codeine. And I was just like, you have kids. You know what I mean? Like, it's shocking to me that he was like it was truly Unk Still Got It. But then you hear him on music and he's fucking lifeless.
Right.
And like, I am of the mind that the songs where Cardi sounds like Future on the album are his most lifeless too. Like that final like, the plodding like final 5 songs or so where I literally thought it was Future until he released who the features were and it wasn't Future. But like the song where he kind of gives up the game by rapping about being a millennial.
Respect.
So I don't know. I think it's more you don't see the artists, with the exception of Kendrick, doing anything interesting here because all of them are too big to either care or want to be influenced. Like, they both feel, they think of themselves as, like, over that shit, you know?
Right.
And I think Kendrick he's such a, I have mixed feelings about him, but he's such a purist and he's so interested in the craft that he thought it would be fun to do the whole, like, call Cardi your evil twin, do an entire song of just ad-libs thing. I think he thinks of it more as, like, a way to expand his frontiers versus the rest of the guys were either doing image rehab or just cashing a fucking check.
Right. That makes sense.
That's a brilliant... Harry, I think that theory is so good. And I was thinking about one of my favorite features, Paul Wall on Drive Slow, and that works because it's like he's so different from Kanye, specifically that era of Kanye.
Right.
Jack, did you have another theory, or was that tied in?
Really quickly.
Yeah, what you got?
We can't talk about this for too long, but of course Grimes did tweet about basketball today.
Right.
And she said some shit about witchcraft. It's going to be annoying quote tweet bait for the foreseeable future. Whatever. Grimes is this whole rabbit hole that we can't get into here. But I also saw tweets today about the life cycle of a young team. And the life cycle specifically, I think it was in the Simmons and Russillo context of like how they'll get on board with the team and then feel skeptical toward them because they underperform in the playoffs, because they overperform the regular season, and then before long the tune changes where it's like these guys walk around like they've won everything and they don't deserve it, and then finally it's the souring. And you see fan bases do this own thing where they love their guys and then their guys develop too quickly and then aren't ready for the playoffs, and then before long everyone's clamoring for a trade.
I think I see where this is going.
Visions,
Keep
Art
going.
Angels, Miss Anthropocene. You see it perfectly.
Wait.
Grimes,
What are you talking about?
These are the
I
names of
think
Grimes albums.
the three, and specifically these three marquee Grimes albums are
This is crazy.
exactly
That's
the
arrested.
life cycle of a promising young team. Visions,
Yes.
this crazy little artist from Montreal who seems to have tapped into like pure gold, and it's not enough to sustain itself for like a full album run, but like the singles are better than anything anyone's done in like a generation. And then Art
It's
Angels,
like genuinely new shit.
yes,
Like,
it's shocking. And you're just
anything
like,
else
what
from
the
that
fuck is
cohort
this?
doesn't like didn't hold up as well as that.
Yeah.
Like the album's still so good.
Exactly. And like the rest of it's kind of like, for lack of a better word, League Pass watch, but like whatever. And then you have Art Angels, which is, I think at its best, like it's less like revolutionary, but it's fully realized.
Yeah.
In a way that is, I think, it makes it my favorite of hers, but there's still a little bit something missing, and then just the fucking sour taste in your mouth when you hear Miss Anthropocene. And I swear it was before I hated Elon that much too. Like it wasn't just me being like, oh, this is Elon dragging it down. There's something to think about here.
That's
I love this. As a listener of these three albums and a fan of a team who has just speed ran this cycle,
Yeah, right.
I'm like, this is like striking me as like almost too coherent. Like I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I think the first one is like sort of Warriors-y in and when they beat the Nuggets in that first round in like a 6-3 series where it's like, oh, there's some new shit going on. Mm-hmm. The second one is like that young team gets like a top 4 seed and loses like a tight 4-5 series. Mm-hmm. And then Miss Anthropocene is the 2024-2025 Sacramento Kings, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, like for me, Visions is the 2019 Dancing Nets. Art Angels is the big three, and then everything after has been Miss Anthropocene. But the deepest cut is, of course, then Grimes goes and has a great feature on the Caroline Polachek album. And that is your favorite star leaving to go do something else.
De'Aaron
They might
Fox
not win a
and San
ring, but it's
Antonio
like good for you.
Spurs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, go play with Wemby. That's fun. Like, oh, you're singing with Dido? Good for you. So that's my Grimes witch.
Sacramento as the sort of like meta modern center of El Segundo in Silicon Valley.
Do you know where Chris Haynes lives?
I know, to bring it all full circle.
He lives in Sacramento.
That's a great place to end it, I think.
I just before we go, I need to see a Haynes brief where instead of like the fucking jerseys and like the man cave, it's just the male manipulator bookshelf of Didion. My year of magical thinking as he does like a news flash that the Nets have extended Keon Johnson.
That's gonna be that's me on Hinge. Like
Yeah. That's my 2026 vibe forecast.
me with a superimposed 8x10-foot intermezzo book.
Yeah. Am I tripping? You just learned about like the wage gap. Is this fucked up to anyone else?
All right. We have our lawyer, Sportello, as always, writer of the great Never Hungover Substack podcast, guest of The Stars, and writer outside of places. Can you write in the LA Review of Books, Passion of the Weiss? What you got anything coming soon, Jack?
No, like I said, I'm just looking for a sublet right now while I figure out my legal situation in Atlanta. But no, hopefully
Keep mowing that lawn. Put those St. Patrick's Day decorations down. Put the Easter ones up.
Yeah. No, at the risk of being a big thing soon guy, a few things in the pipeline, but nothing.
Hell yeah.
terrible. Yeah.
Well, all the elite New York City media elites and coastal media elites that follow us hire Jack. Is an excellent writer.
Yeah, I would say if you follow me and Owen Phillips, between vibes and someone who's actually smart about basketball, you have a pretty complete understanding of the game.
of the game, the canon, yeah. Patrick, what about you? You got anything coming up?
Just little things here and there. I'm trying to basically rest up before the NBA playoffs start.
Beautiful. All right.
Yeah, what about you? Anything cool?
I got a very soft big things coming. I don't I'll say that.
Very soft, big things coming.
Yes.
That's a great. All right.
My favorite 3 words.
That's
All right, fellas.